Ben, welcome to Puerto Rico.
Thank you.
It's been a long time in the making, and I'm actually super stoked to sit down with you. I think out of all the people that I know in the pest control industry, you really are that crazy entrepreneur that's always tinkering with stuff.
Yeah.
Got a lot of things going on, but before we get that party started, let's talk about your professional career. You got out of school, and what did you do?
Yeah, so graduated high school, grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah. Met a guy named David Royce. My scoutmaster was his uncle.
Okay.
And ended up going out to sell pest control with Moxie in 2002. So did about 7 years on the doors with Moxie and Joshua's Pest Control, Jason Walton, Dave Royce.
Yep.
David spun off, started the franchise, and got out of the industry, took the money I had made, got married, opened up a construction business in 2007, timed it perfectly for 2007, 2008. So that crashed and burned pretty hard, and went back into the industry on the operations side down in Texas. We'd kind of relocated to Texas and started to sell one more summer. And then Dave Royce brought me into the operations side of the business. This was September of, I want to say 09, maybe. It was right when he was selling Eco First to Altera. So I got brought on about 3 weeks before that transaction. Had no idea about the transaction.
Okay.
And so then ended up relocating to DC with Altera, opened up Baltimore, opened up Atlanta for Altera. When Altera sold to Terminix, I left and was going to start my own business in Atlanta, and then ended up getting sucked back into Aptiv. One more year with Aptiv, and then kind of left and started my own thing.
So you were at Aptiv, I guess, in 16.
Yep. So yeah, I was there for 16 for the first summer. I was a regional manager at that point, the operations side, over the East Coast offices. I had Atlanta, Nashville, and
I didn't
Florida.
even know that about you. I knew about your Altera stint. I didn't know you were at Aptiv.
Yeah, just the first year.
Okay.
And so end of that first year, I just decided I was ready to do my own thing, and had learned a lot, obviously, on the sales side and recruiting and leading teams, and then operations side had seen kind of all the roles, and was just ready to take it out on my own. So met my brother-in-law, my wife's cousin's husband was connected with a guy who knew a guy with money, and said, "Hey, if you had the money to go do your own thing, would you do it?" And I said, "Well, yeah, we'd have to have the money and the recruits, but I know how to run door to door, pest control." I was really very familiar with that. Had done it with, at that point, the biggest and the fastest growing and the best, and had seen that whole thing. So I was very, very comfortable kind of stepping out, but just needed to make sure we had, the other pieces. So
Before you get deeper into the Anthem story, I want to go back a little bit. So
sure.
7 years on the doors. Were you doing this? Was it summer sales for you? Were you doing it year round those first 7 years?
So summer sales, first summer was just me and a couple buddies. Second summer, a few more buddies. We'd done some stints in that time where we were hired as marketing services for other companies as well. So I was doing some traveling and training. The year Dave sold 903 in Houston, 903 was painted on the wall at Altera for a long time, kind of as like the big number that you had to go hit.
Yep.
And during that time, I was out traveling and training to other offices 2 weeks at a time. Kind of ended in Houston with Dave that summer. And but yeah, I'd done all of that, so it was more summer sales. And that's kind of, I think, what led to a lot of my multifaceted, crazy entrepreneurial attention deficit disorder that I have.
Because on a summer sale, you're basically, what is it, like end of March through October-ish?
Yeah, it's typically May through August.
Okay.
It's pretty standard in the industry, so that's kind of the break from college that guys get. And so we gave them 3 days from the time college ended to be out there, and they got to go home 3 days before college started. So it was really maximizing that time.
So you were doing this after college. So what were you doing then in the off season?
Yeah, in the off season, I was always doing something entrepreneurial or sales related. So I worked at a call center selling real estate and stock investment courses for a guy named Russ Whitney. That call floor was doing like $2 million a week. So kind of more high pace, like kind of opened my eyes to like there's a lot more than just pest control money out there.
Yeah.
Other things like Christmas lights, hanging Christmas lights. Started a company called Santa's Little Helpers.
Okay.
I'd dress all my friends up with Santa hats and go hang Christmas lights during the winter season. Aeration, just anything that was like not a normal job. It's kind of what I focused on. It was just something where I was in control of the pace and the growth and what happened. So just really comfortable with door knocking and selling people on different services that they needed.
Okay. So you leave Aptiv, you partner up with a guy who had money, which you did not have, or you didn't have it in the same quantity.
For sure.
Were you doing recruiting yourself?
So that was my one big fear. Like, working your way into a regional role with the fastest growing pest control company, like it wasn't an easy decision to leave. It was one that we went back and forth on for quite a while, but something in me just knew I had to kind of chart my own path. And so we didn't have any recruits. The first summer, by any measure, Anthem's first summer was a complete and utter failure.
Okay.
I questioned every day what I had done and if it was the right decision.
It was a failure because people didn't want to work for you guys. You were an unknown.
We started super late. We didn't have a full recruiting season. I met the investor February 13th. I resigned February 21st.
Recruiting's done. It's over.
Recruiting's over. And so we did everything you shouldn't do. We tried to buy teams. We tried to recruit and offer huge signing bonuses. And, a couple $100,000 in signing bonuses later and 12 reps showing up. We did 1,200 accounts our first summer. I mean, for a door-to-door space, it's not very good.
What'd your investor say?
What have you done? Yeah. And I was the one fielding all those calls.
Yeah.
The investor, my business partner, Mitch Matthews, had played football at BYU. Very well connected, very well respected, but had never had a job outside of football, right? Like this was his first journey outside of the football field. And then when we first launched the business, he actually got picked up again to go back to the NFL. So that first summer, he wasn't even there.
You see Mitch Matthews, who spent time with the Vikings.
He was still trying to make his dream come true in the football arena. And Jake Peden and Aaron Peden were the other partners. We initially launched with 5 partners.
Okay.
There's currently 3 that are still here, but those guys had a direct TV dealership where they were selling door-to-door direct TV installs. And so Jake was there and kind of ran the team that first summer, but yeah, we didn't have a full ramp up. So the conversations with Brent were really just focused around, give us a full recruiting season. Let's do this the right way. We never had a shot to really launch it the right way. And so that's what we did. Mitch was done with football at the end of that first summer. Came out the next summer as a rookie and hit 1,000 accounts, which had never been done by a rookie at that point.
Okay.
Jake also did 1,000 accounts that summer.
That beat the David Royce 903, 904, whatever that.
Yeah, and I was there for Dave's summer too. Like, one of my big mantras has always been growth and retention. Because in the door-to-door space, all I had to compare those numbers to were what I had seen in the industry. And so a lot of guys were throwing up big numbers, but really low. I mean, when Dave did his 903, it wasn't $800 contracts like they are now. You know, I mean, it was much smaller numbers.
And much less people on the doors to compete with.
For sure.
Yeah.
And what Dave had done was revolutionary. Don't want to discount that at all. It's just that it's a very different world now. I think there was 86 Golden Door winners last year for a door-to-door con, where Sam Taggart kind of recognizes different metrics for hitting high numbers. And there's a whole arena around this door-to-door game that a lot of people that don't understand it or don't fully understand the value that comes from door-to-door. Sam's really created a good culture around recognizing guys and having some standards in place for high achievement. But it's a much different world now.
So by the time you got to the second year, it was your first real recruiting cycle.
Yeah, we really treated year 2 as year 1. I mean, that was really our launch. We ended up doing 5,700 accounts that year. Had a good recruiting season, good numbers across the board. A lot of guys re-signed to come back, and we kind of, launched things the right way. But yeah, it was it was a good way to end year two for sure. After year one,
Okay.
was hard.
So you had success in year 2, and this was 2018, right? In
2018.
2018. Then what happened from there?
So in 2019, we had a really good recruiting season, kind of with Mitch and Jake both doing golden doors, and some of our guys doing good numbers.
What does golden doors mean?
Golden Door is either 1,000 accounts. They've now introduced a revenue number as well. And they just this year finally introduced a retention number tied to that revenue number as well.
Oh, really? Okay.
Which is good.
Yep.
I think what we've seen in the industry is a lot of guys pushing really high revenue numbers, but they don't care about retention because it's all marketing.
Yeah.
And so they're just focused on what they can produce. But now I still think it should be higher than it is, but Golden Door is 1,000 accounts or 650,000 in revenue with at least 74% retention.
And they do
at
that
back end.
in pest in other industries as well.
Yeah. So Golden Door's metrics vary. Like roofing has its own, I think it's 2 million for roofing. Alarms has a Golden Door number. I don't know what those are, but yeah, every vertical, doors and windows, roofing, alarms, pest, all have their own kind of metrics.
Yep. How did the third year go?
Third year was good. So we expanded, we recruited a lot. So we opened up Dallas and Houston our third year. And it went well. Got through that first kind of half the summer, and there's good and bad that come with any growth opportunity. We probably expanded a little faster than we needed to. Probably only need to open one of those offices. So from a leadership perspective, again, Mitch had just come out, done his Golden Door, but hadn't run a team before, right? He'd been in leadership positions with football and those types of things, but sales is a little different.
Beast.
It's a little different beast. But Jake and Mitch were kind of traveling and bouncing all over the place, still selling really well. I think Mitch was in Dallas and Jake was down in Houston, and then I was in Atlanta.
Okay.
And so had a good year. The following year, we didn't expand again. We just kind of restacked the offices. I don't remember how many accounts we did that year. I think 9,500 roughly between the 3 locations. Went back again to all 3 locations the next year. Halfway through the summer, ended up letting go of our entire Dallas team other than 3 reps. So that was not great, but
Why?
well, I think the lack of oversight on our part, we didn't quite manage things correctly in terms of the standards that are required to have a successful business,
Okay.
and let guys run a little bit too loose, put guys in positions. I think trying to delegate too quickly and take things off of our plate.
It's easy to do when you're growing at that speed.
Yeah. And you want to focus on, you think you're focusing on one thing, but you lose control of some others. So it was a big learning lesson for sure. But we did lose, I think we lost 40 reps. That we just I had to fly down there and just said, hey, you guys are done. And it wasn't an easy decision, but it was costing us more money to keep them there, not working the right way and following the systems that we had tried to put in place. So yeah, it was a big learning lesson for us on standards and training and having a system in place to know that guys are ready for that next step of leadership.
What were some of the changes that you made after having to do that to this team down there?
So up to that point, we'd just been using the CRM platform software. So all of the sales were handled just on the normal software that's there and available. But what we realized is that we really wanted to motivate guys in a different way. We wanted to train guys in a different way. So what we did really in that off season was we filmed all of our training. So rather than just having like a manual the guys were expected to read, we did video content. We did a lot more one-on-one training with guys in the off season. But really built out the software. That was the start of our, what we call Gladiator, and implementing a tournament style kind of competition during the summer.
Yep.
Just to motivate guys to compete and work hard. All that investment was very, very worthwhile. And then instituted a President's Club trip as well. So when guys perform above a certain level, they earn a travel with the business owners and kind of go see the world, go do some different things.
And this tournament type stuff is, I guess, pretty prolific in the industry, at least now. I know Dave over at Aptive and even Altera used to do that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah, it all came from, shout out to Vivint, right? They were the ones who kind of pioneered that space while it was Apex. But yeah, it's a whole competition of kind of a March Madness kind of bracket and just working your way through the summer. And then team versus team as well. So you can have individual goals, but team versus team, like winning dinners together and trips to the beach together, you know, or up to Nashville. Like, we do a lot of little awards to just motivate the guys to work hard, because it's one thing when you're on a commission only job where you have to earn and you get to eat what you kill.
Yeah.
But not everyone stays motivated, and it's hard. Door to door is the hardest job in the world, for sure. Like, there's no question about it, in my opinion. I think any business major should be required to do a summer of door to door, just because it is so hard to learn, the nonverbal communication skills, how to gesticulate properly, tonality, speed, pace, like all the things that come with just building camaraderie and gaining trust of somebody to get them to do what you want them to do. It's crucial in business. And so,
what were when you started Anthem with your partners, what was your ultimate plan for the business in the early years? Did you have visions of pulling a David Royce and trying to grow it to an active size, or where was your head?
Yeah, like my password, the first couple years, my password was beat Dave. But I wasn't saying beat Dave in terms of size. I wanted to hit the PCT list faster than Dave did.
Yep.
That was my big focus. And mainly because of when I went to leave, there wasn't a lot of support, as you can imagine, behind leaving an organization to go be a competitor. That's pretty normal in any industry. But I felt during that transition pretty talked down to, and not by Dave necessarily, but just the organization as a whole was kind of, now it felt like, again, we were at odds, obviously. Yeah. So I took it personally, and I shouldn't have, but it also helped fuel me to do the right things necessary to compete. So it's kind of I'll show you, I actually can do this, and I'll show you that I can do it. And I'm actually going to get the PCT list before you did. So that was my main focus, was just PCT. That was my only goal. Brent may not like to hear that. It wasn't about getting his money back or growing the business to a certain level. Yeah, it was just, I just wanted to grow and hit the mark and show that, no, I can run I don't know how big my region was. I want to say I was running around a $15 to $20 million region for Aptive. And so
you started your career in door-to-door sales, but then over time you moved into management. You were opening up offices. Even at Altera, you were a manager. You weren't doing door-to-door stuff.
No, and I grew fast. I wasn't just opening up offices. We were opening up offices and having the best office in the whole company. So DC was the number one office. Baltimore, when I opened Baltimore, was number one, number two, pretty much the whole summer. Yep. Atlanta, I was in the top 5, which no one expected for Atlanta. Atlanta's not an easy market.
No, it's not.
To compete in, and the home of Orkin and Rollins, and there's a lot of termite stuff there, and we'd never done termite. Yep. And so yeah, it wasn't expected to do so well there. And part of that was, I think, my availability to the sales guys and knowing what the sales side needed, because I had done that role. So I was always able to kind of look around the corner and see what was next and make sure they had what they were going to need. Part of that was the sales teams that I was gifted, that were hardworking and talented, as well. So I don't take all the credit at all, but the numbers were always there, and people liked working in my branches, and I was firm, but I felt like I was always fair. Yeah. And that was kind of the differentiator. Sales guys need boundaries in order to be successful. If you let a sales guy do whatever he wants and go wherever he wants, he'll do that. And it doesn't necessarily mean business success. And so I was always firm, but I was always fair, and it was a good balance.
As you've gotten deeper into this now, running Anthem, dealing with sales guys, I mean, what is your philosophy? Has your philosophy on door-to-door sales changed since the beginning years?
Yeah, a lot, actually. Door-to-door is great for market infiltration. It's great for route density. If it's done the right way, it can be great for route density. But it's very expensive. It's a huge headache dealing with all those personalities and trying to keep them focused on the mission. But mainly the cost and the retention are a little bit different with that compared to traditional growth. And my eyes kind of opened to that as I started in 2019, kind of the end of 2019, in business, especially with multiple partners. I said there was 5, now there's only 3. So it's not always smooth sailing. And as part of that transition led to me looking at kind of contemplating where my business was going for me and for my family. And so I started to look at other opportunities to kind of diversify and had an opportunity to get into the supplement space. And we grew a business from 0 to $12 million really, really quickly. And we did it all through online ads. And that opened my eyes to understanding like there are more ways than just door to door. The crack that I had grown up on of door to door sales. It's fast, it's efficient, it pays really well.
That crack's expensive.
But that crack is expensive, and it's from a business health perspective. If you're too addicted to that crack, it can hurt your ability to sell. And really, was talking with you.
End up out of money and homeless, right?
Yeah. And talking with you initially that was one of the things that was pretty glaring. Was my expenses were a little higher than they needed to be, because I was like, Dave sold, I can sell. Like, this is great. Paul helped sell Dave. Paul will help me figure it out. And that's what initially got us connected. But trying to understand that a little bit more as a business owner, I never looked at that from Dave's perspective or as an owner. I looked at it as a manager. Of like, yeah, you can sell it and grow it. And there's an asset. But, the more I've learned about what you were able to pull off with Dave and his growth and some of the deals that were structured over the years, I mean, those are pretty unique. Very unique scenarios, industry changing scenarios in some ways. But it really led me to start to think a little bit smarter about that in the later years of Anthem. But yeah, I would say even over the last 24 months, my view of door to door and the value that it is there, but you have to do it the right way. Just because it's changed so much, the rates are so much higher. There's some marketing companies charging 110%, 115% to go out and do acquisition. A lot of them around 95%, 90%. Our costs aren't that high, but like, that's not sustainable. Like, I don't want to go grow a bunch of business to pay off a bunch of debt to my investor. Like, that's not smart business for me. So
I really want to focus on this because I think it's something that I've been thinking a lot more about here in 2024. Because, from my perspective, Ben, there's tons of door-to-door companies. You talk to guys like Jason Walton and Dave and the old G's, right? And then you've got all these kids. And I'm looking at door-to-door in general, and I'm saying to myself, well, when I first got in this industry, I didn't know anything about door-to-door. Like, I was shocked to understand that door-to-door even existed. And I was probably, I started in pest control in 2003. I don't think it was until around 2005-ish, 6-ish, maybe, that I even knew that summer sales was a thing. And I remember back in those days looking at, and there wasn't many door-to-door businesses back then, right? Not like today.
Sure.
But I remember looking and thinking to myself, like, okay, these kids are getting paid a ton of money. They're getting 20% of the contract value to go out and sell these things, right? Like, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Fast forward to 2024, and like you said, I mean, some of the marketing companies are going out and they're charging, 90, 95, $1.05 on a contract. And I'm thinking to myself, how is this sustainable? And when you talk to door-to-door companies, again, this is all my opinion and my perspective. A lot of the guys that I talk to tend to, if you grew up in door-to-door, that's what you do. You don't spend much time thinking about digital marketing or any of those. You're focused on, boom, we're going to grow this thing on the doors, and that's how we're going to do it. And we're going to recruit guys and get them out there. Of course, costs have gone up because, now there's more exits and people are eyeing, just like you. Like, I'll build this up, I can sell it. David Royce did it, other guys did it. So what I'm really interested from you is, when you started to scale your supplement business, you were like, okay, not one single person is on the door selling my supplement stuff. Was it then when you really started to delve into the economics of the lead acquisition and customer conversion, and then start to think about it in the context of pest control?
Yeah, so I was doing like webinars once a week with the supplement business. I still do them to this day.
Okay.
So we run ads. People come to the webinar. We do the presentation. We explain how you can launch your own company without all the risk and all the upside. It's a very similar model to like how to be an entrepreneur, but it's just Aaron, my business partner who runs the marketing side of that. It was really Aaron who kind of said, hey, like, and he still owned a small percentage of Anthem. When we had bought him out, he kept a little small piece. I didn't sell him my piece
Yep.
of the 8% or whatever it was that he owned. And so he still had a little skin in the game. And he was like, do you think this would work? He said, I think this would work for the pest side. Let me try it. And at that point I was like, we don't have a budget for that. Like all of our budget and then some is tied up in the door-to-door piece.
So you were doing no online marketing?
Zero.
Yep.
Zero. And he said, hey, let me try this. And so we started trying it. And within a few weeks, and Aaron was really good at marketing. Like he had fallen off a ladder when he was running his satellite retailer and broke his leg.
Okay.
And had about 70 door-to-door reps with no one to lead them, no one to train them. And he was recovering with a like full-on fracture, bone out of the skin, bad accident.
Okay.
And so he had to learn a way to try to save his business. And so he started running ads and while he's recovering and high on painkillers, like deep diving into all these online courses on Google ads and SEO. And SEO and Google is great, like to understand that you need to have your site optimized, but that's not like the future of marketing. And all the things that are coming out now with the different tools, like Aaron was able to kind of get ahead of the curve on a lot of those things. And so we were starting to run ads. I was doing marketing. When I founded Rocktomic, I started working as a side project, running some ads with some other owners in the business that had connections with some of the big companies. And so we were running ads for, these other marketing companies on behalf of the big companies and started outranking the big companies. And so Aaron's like marketing, I realized pretty early on, like we were getting calls from corporations saying, hey, what are you doing? Like you're outranking us. You can't.
These are paid online.
This is paid online ads. Okay. Yeah. And so this is 2019, 2020. We started getting ads saying, hey, like you're outranking us. Stop. Like we want to rank for our own things. And we're not even using their name. We're just using generalized pest terms.
Okay.
But our page was so well optimized that we were outranking them on paid search.
Okay.
And so calls that they felt should be going to them were coming to us. And so they put an X to it. Like we were doing.
Were you outranking them organically or you were outranking them with your paid ads?
Both.
Okay.
So because of the paid ads and the optimizations that we were getting, what Google wants and what Facebook wants and what Instagram, like anyone that's doing paid ads, they want people to use their platform to find services because they're an advertising company. So the better you are at ranking for their paid search, the more they're going to reward you with leads. Because if you know how to rank high, and that leads to conversions, that's going to lead automatically to more and more ad spend.
It's a cycle.
It's a cycle. And so the more you can spend and get a better return, the more as a business owner, what I realized early on was it's like, I would much rather put in money at 40% or 50% instead of, 80%, 70%, 90%.
Yeah.
Like it's a better model for growth. Not only that, but the retention of those accounts, the customer loyalty on those accounts, it's drastically different. And that was the big eye opener for me is when I finally dug into the analysis of retention during kind of the evaluation of what we had built, what was it worth. What I quickly realized was these accounts over here are staying active 15% higher rates at over 12 months, 20% higher rates over 24 months. And so we're like, whoa, like we need to put more emphasis on that versus the other way.
So let's think about this for a second.
Yeah.
On the front end, you've got the cost of customer acquisition. And so you can kind of compare the cost of customer acquisition online versus door to door. And it sounds like you were somewhat paying between 50% and 70% of what you were online versus what you were paying on the doors. Does that sound about right?
Yep.
And then the other end of the equation is you've got the lifetime value of the customer. So the important lever there is retention. So you're looking at this and you're measuring retention on doors versus retention on online. And from online, you would say, okay, the customer has a problem and they're searching for a solution. Whereas on door to door, they might have a problem or they might not recognize they have a problem, or it might just be an impulse buy.
Then there's a third factor too, which is the lifetime value, but part of that lifetime value is the per service price. Because when someone's reaching out, your ability to sell that at a higher rate is actually improved as well, versus having to create the need for the door-to-door sale and helping them understand that there's value in what you're pitching to them. So part of the lifetime value was the per service cost as well. And It's a unique thing I want to highlight, because if you can sell it at a higher rate, if it's $10 per service more and you're getting 60 extra bucks a year, 60 extra bucks times, 2,000 accounts is a lot of money.
What about I would imagine, and this is a hypothesis though, that from a density perspective, door-to-door will beat online?
100%.
Right? So you might get higher pricing from an online, somebody who's actively searching online. They've got a problem. They have a higher willingness to pay, but they might not necessarily be routed as well from a density perspective, just because it's more scattershot just by very nature.
It is.
But is it your inclination that the higher pricing you're able to get and the stickiness of that customer need outweighs? And then you couple that with the lower acquisition cost.
And the longevity of the account.
Then my question is,
if you have the density and if you have the ad spend, here's what I see a lot in the industry. And we run ads for about 17 different companies in addition to Anthem, right?
Okay.
I have a company that runs ads for those companies.
And I want to talk to you about that in a second.
Yeah. But one thing we've realized is that a lot of people just have an ad budget for the year. And they're like, this is my ad budget. And I'm only going to spend this much, and it's going to yield me whatever it's going to yield me. And so what they fail to do, or fail to kind of realize, is that if they roll in their ad spend a little bit faster, they can grow. You can grow quite a bit. Like Anthem this year, 2024, will put on between $4 and $5 million in Atlanta from online ads. We'll do another $3 million just from our door-to-door presence. That total acquisition cost across the board between the two will come in less than 50%. That's ridiculous. And it's ridiculous because now we're doing termite and adding in these other verticals and other kind of ways to squeeze the juice. But the longevity of all of that higher blend is just way, way better. So I think to answer what you were going at is, door-to-door is great for market infiltration. It's great for route density. It's great for establishing a customer base. And that's how I view door-to-door now. It's great for those three things. And primarily we'll use it for expansion moving forward. We'll use it to go in and do some market infiltration to build up that route. And then we'll backfill with the online ads, because now we already have customers in all those locations. Because you don't control where the ads are getting served, really.
Yeah, how tight can you get that from a geographic perspective?
Depends on the tool, depends on the vertical that you're utilizing. You can do it from like a radius from a service center. You can do it by zip codes and just serve certain zip codes ads. We do it both ways. We're not just a one-trick pony either. When we're running ads, it's not just Google or any of the different tools out there. It's Angie's List. It's running videos on YouTube, and we put together content for all those types of things that are all branded.
Gotcha.
So it's a combination of everything. And so it depends on the vertical and what's there, but some zones some zip codes might not have 0 calls one day, and the next day you might get 20.
Gotcha.
So it's totally up to the consumer.
Okay. So Atlanta is a relatively mature market for you guys. You intend to do 4 or 5 million in revenue just from online marketing efforts. Will you use door-to-door in Georgia this year?
Yeah, we have a team there that we'll put on about 3 million in door-to-door in Atlanta this summer.
And so why will you do that?
Continual route density for us. We broke our service centers into 2 locations last year, and so it expanded our service area in some ways. And so we want to highlight those specific areas where we're a little bit light and really target those and knock those areas multiple times. And just continual route density. And we have other like advertisements as well. We have ads on billboards this year. We're doing a little bit of radio as well. Some high school like sponsorships across the board where we're a little bit light. We're sponsoring those areas and just trying to get more of a communal brand recognition, so that as we are doing the things, the more and more, same as door-to-door, like you have to push through multiple no's to get to a yes. Yeah. With online marketing, you have to get multiple touches usually before you get a yes or a recognition. So if you can hit them with radio and hit them with billboard and hit them on YouTube, and then they see an ad that has a special promo, you'll have a higher shot of getting that conversion.
So you think about it from a multifaceted perspective, where you're using a variety of different media. You've got video, you've got paid ad, you've got SEO, you've got door-to-door, now you're adding billboards, radio, and so on and so forth. If when you thought about your 2024 advertising budget, how did you triage where you're going to put your money. What was it sounds like online marketing was your biggest spend.
Online will be the biggest priority. Yeah, but we'll spend less to do the 4 million than, less through the 4 to 5. If we end up getting to 5 million, we'll spend less on the 5 million than we do on the 3 from doors.
So if I were your business partner and I look at the numbers, I'm like, yeah, Ben, why are we doing door to door?
Why are we doing door to door at all? Yeah.
What would you say to me?
The route density still has a place for it. The cost is high for sure that first year, but the ability to, I look at routes all the time as we're in these other CRMs for multiple companies, and some routes, some days are not efficient. And so, yeah, you can say, hey, I have a traditional route. My acquisition costs are only this high, but your profitability matters across the board. You have to look at it holistically. You can't just look at I don't segment it out that way. You have to obviously track segments, but the way we triage that is understanding that because we're spending a little bit more here and getting the density, that's what allows for the profitability of the other piece. If we didn't have the density, we couldn't just run ads and be efficient.
So what you're saying is like having that density and then getting one additional customer from online marketing, for example, because you have that density, it actually makes that online marketed customer more attractive.
Yes.
Because it's more profitable.
Because it's more profitable.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you envision a point in time where you'll, as Georgia matures for the firm, that you just won't be doing door to door there?
100%. Yeah. There'll be a time or a very small presence just to fill the gaps.
Okay.
But 100%. As soon as next year, we may not have a door to door presence in a big way there, and we would go open a new market. And that's the plan right now, is to use door to door to expand and get into areas and have market infiltration and disruption. And as we have that opens the door to the next phase, which is backfilling with online warm leads. And we also have cold outreach. So we've developed a software as well with the marketing firm separate from Anthem. The marketing has a software now where we can pull in smart data, pre-pin areas, have names, addresses.
Is that what everyone was looking at last night?
Yeah, showing a little bit.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Yep.
Would you ever enter a brand new market without doing door to door and rely on online marketing and other advertising?
Yes, the beautiful thing about what we've built, and again, this is still in the kind of verification, validation phase, but what we've built is the ability essentially to digitally knock areas. So all the benefits of route density, targeting specific areas, but without the cost, without rent, without morning meetings that are, the motivation, potentially paying people, hourly plus commission versus just commission. So the ability to have all the benefits that come from door to door, but without the costs, because that's the problem. In my view, what's happening in our space is unsustainable. And I think any of the marketing companies that are just doing marketing would own up to this one-on-one with you, and that they're looking for ways to have an asset, right? 100%. Like their focus is on that. And I've experienced that in my conversations with them, is that what they have is great and they're able to take this pie. But what happens when the economy does adjust, which everyone assumes is going to happen? What happens if costs have to come down? You don't have the money to pay 95% and wait 24 months to be profitable. You just don't have it, especially if you're trying to sell and grow something. Jason Walton used to talk about his favorite poem. He has this poem he used to read. He did like this 10-page thing on it in high school, but there's a line in it that says gesture without motion. And sometimes if you have growth without retention or growth without profitability, like what's the point? Especially if you can't sell it because no one wants to buy a bleeding ship or a sinking ship. And that was something I realized early on, is we were really good at growing. I don't think anyone with my level of experience had hit the PCT list as fast, probably ever. But the retention was a problem, right? Like the ability to retain the accounts and continue to grow. If you don't continue to grow, you can't keep, it's just your ship is always taking on water. And if you can't bail the water out fast enough or speed up the engine, speed up the boat, then you're going to sink. And that's what I realized, is that we need to be like, profitability in business matters a lot.
100%. Now,
Took me a few years to kind of catch that lesson, but it does matter. Like growth is great, but profitability will trump a lot of other issues.
Now, you've learned a ton here with Anthem, with the supplement business. And, I had Alan Draper and Matt Rogers down here about a year ago. And, I always like to give Alan shit because I always say, Alan, you got like 15 jobs, but you're a contender for this now too, because you've got all sorts of stuff going on. You've got Anthem, you've got the supplement business, you're building the software, you're doing the marketing stuff. So I want to talk about where you've taken what you guys have learned with supplement and pest and how you're applying it to these other agencies and firms that you've established. So I think we should start with PestFuel. Is that right?
PestFuel. So fuel marketing.
PestFuel. I was talking about fumigants yesterday.
Yes.
So, okay.
PestFuel. So pestfuel.com. You can kind of check out the website if you guys want to take a look at it, but it's all part of fuel marketing. So we service 29 different verticals: roofing, solar, veterinary care, dentists, like anyone who wants to run ads to get their phone ringing for new customers, we can service. Why can we service any vertical? Because online ads is online ads. And the more you understand, and when you're spending $10 million a year with Google, like they tend to want to work with you really well and help you have a leg up as well.
Yep.
So part of our relationship that we built with running ads there and the ability to build a correct funnel that has proper follow-up sequencing, proper text follow-up. If you go to rocktomic.com, or supplement business, you'll start seeing us everywhere. We'll hit you on Facebook. We'll hit you on Instagram. You'll see us on YouTube. Like, we'll relentlessly be in front of you. Aaron, my business partner who runs that marketing team, is exquisite in his ability to kind of foster things the right way and have the correct sequences and follow-ups. And so that's the focus with fuel marketing, is that regardless of what vertical you're in, if you're looking to have growth, as long as you can handle a 50% acquisition, then we can get you where you want to go.
So this fuel marketing was an outgrowth of what you guys did internally for supplement and pest.
Yep.
And then you said, okay, well, we can do this. We'll do it for ourselves. We'll do it for others. You guys are across a variety of different verticals. And when did you actually formally start that business?
So formally started that business last February. We've been running ads for a couple different companies now. Crazy ROI on some of them. Like there's our veterinary space, we get a 17x ROI, like on average, as high as 25. And so there's one company, I think they only spent, $24,000 on ads that year, over this last year with us, but we got them a 24x return on that money.
Now that you're looking at a variety of different industries, what are the most competitive from a price perspective, the most expensive, I should say, versus the least competitive, at least what you guys are looking at? Sounds like veterinary is not nearly as competitive.
Solar is one of the most expensive right now because everybody and their dog is in solar and running ads and trying to get that cheap costs and cheap acquisition. But it's also like, it's just crazy competitive. Solar, roofing.
That's competitive?
It's pretty competitive, yeah. Depending on the market, we're in like 6 different markets across the U.S. And how we operate is if you come on, let's say you're over Texas and you had a roofing company in Texas, if you're running ads with us, we only run ads for you in Texas. And so we kind of carve out that space for that vertical and it's locked. And then if you stop using us, then we would open it back up and somebody else could come run those ads. But we don't want to compete against our ad dollars and have a diminishing return by just being too competitive. But it totally varies. I mean, it varies by region, varies by location. I've got pests that is, what we're confident on is what we found is that we can rank in the top 3 results on Google within 60 days in any space. We haven't not yet done that. We're running ads for 17 different, companies right now.
Are a lot of them like resi services type verticals?
Yep.
Of course, Michael Porter in On Strategy talks about competition as an important, he talks in the Porter 5 forces, the structure of the industry. And I thought about that when you were talking about the different verticals that you cover. If you were to go out and start a brand new business tomorrow in one of those verticals that you cover, how much impact on your decision would come from how expensive online marketing is?
Yeah, I mean, if I was starting a brand new thing with no customer base myself, it's hard to get a footprint online without reputation, right? Like Google reviews matter, BBB score matters. You know, if you're in an area that Yelp is like the respected thing, that matters. And so it's really hard to like compete from an online perspective if you don't have any reputation and you don't have any quality score to be associated with. Because that's what you're trying to do with online ads, is you're trying to highlight results. Like that's what you're looking for on that first page, is like, who can I trust?
Yeah.
And so if there's no authority, there's no trust. So there's no online marketing. You're just going to spend a lot of money.
Yep.
And so it's not something we recommend for a launch. And we're not the right fit for that type of client. Like we want to work with people who have a good reputation, who take care of their customers, and who want to grow. And so if you fit that criteria, you're a perfect client for me, because at scale, you know, I could get your phone ringing better than anybody else.
But if you were thinking like, hey, I want 16 jobs. I want to start another business, and it's going to be one of these 28 verticals. I'm guessing you would probably look and say, well, man, solar is really expensive, so I don't want to compete here. But veterinarian, there's not nearly as much spend, or it's not competitive. Would that guide you at all, or no?
No, I think to an extent, yeah. Like you want to be competitive and be in a space where you can compete, and you don't have as like, again, the better you can level the playing field for yourself, like the farther you can run, right? If you're trying to run like straight uphill to start, that's a tough ask. Like I'm not going to go climb Mount Everest tomorrow. Yeah. I've been on this great weight loss journey, but I'm not prepared for that. So it's like, you don't want to put yourself at a disadvantage by choosing the wrong thing, but you also need to have competence in the space that you're going after. I mean, business is business to some extent, and service business is service business to some extent. It's about taking care of the client. It's about offering something at a good value. It's about taking care of your people so they take care of your customer. Yeah. Like those three pillars really are going to get you success to some standard in any of those verticals. But yeah, I think it just depends on how heavy of a lift you want, right? Like certain things have way more regulation. They have way more licensing requirements. You have to do like solar, you're dealing with electrical permits and like all these other things. Whereas with pest control, yeah, you have to have the license for the state, you know, but it's just different.
What about, in addition to fuel, we were discussing the software that you've developed, and I think a lot of folks that saw it here over the weekend were impressed by it. I want to talk a little bit about what that is and how it works, and how did you get the idea for it?
Yeah, so we spun it off. Initially, again, we wanted to motivate our sales guys. So kind of the concept behind this came from Anthem and what we were doing with Anthem. But what we've developed is completely separate from that. And so the sales app portion of it allows you to just motivate your people better, for them to have full transparency on sold, serviced, active revenue, because they only get really paid on their active serviced revenue. Right. And so we didn't want that to be a surprise. So we're just like, let's show them what it is. And if something cancels, they'll know. We show what the aging dollars are. Like nobody else has that. So if I have an account that has been serviced that didn't pay their bill, if it goes over 60 days, there's no commission for those accounts. So I have a list that shows their dollar value of aging customers, and we start showing it at day one. If they don't pay their bill, it shows up on that list. My office is always going to follow up and try to collect those dollars. Like the CSAs are going to do their job, but the sales rep who has that relationship and is getting the commission, he also has that ability to call that customer, text that customer and say, hey, like, what can I do to get you taken care of? Do you need a reservice? Yep. Like, why haven't you paid? Yeah. Let's get you taken care of. And we break it out by revenue type. If it's pest versus termite, we break it out by service type as well, so they can see the breakdown of what is my bi-monthly revenue, what's my quarterly revenue, what's my monthly revenue. We have a goal section at the bottom. So a guy can say, my first day knocking is April 1st, my last day is September, and I want to hit $400,000. And today's now April 28th. It'll tell me how many days I have left, what my service revenue goal needs to be each day. So guys can adjust their behaviors based off what their goals are, or adjust their goals based off their behaviors. It just allows for transparency.
So this is in addition to like the CRM system?
Yeah, it's totally separate from the CRM. Our, tons of different CRMs out there. They're all good. They're all bad. Yeah. Right. There's good and bad with all of them. Yep. We use Pest Routes. And so this operates on the front end of Pest Routes. it just communicates and syncs up with pest routes seamlessly. So we have all the APIs already done. It's a solution that works there, but it could work with any other CRM, and we've talked with a few others about licensing it to them. But the goal is for us was just transparency for our people, and then like just a faster, more optimized way to grow the accounts.
Did you build this to commercialize it, or did you build it solely for your own
No,
business?
like that app is really just used for, the Anthem side of things. Like we don't use that to, that was never meant to like license it out or build it. And a lot of other companies have done the same thing. Aptiv has poured millions of dollars into software and their own technician app. And I think they're playing with licensing it on the back end, but that wasn't the focus. The focus was really just making our guys' life a little bit easier and having everything in one place. We didn't want to have, for training, go into this system, for chat with the office, go into this system. Everything is inside that app. So we utilize other services, but they're all integrated within our app. So Pronto we use for chat communication. There's a button they click on to open that up. We use Bradley's software Lightspeed for training. And it gives like good information for us on training, like what guys are watching what videos, how often are they watching them, when's the last time they watched it and logged in. So if guys are coming saying, hey, Ben, I need an advance and I'm working really hard, but I'm broke, I go look at things like that. Like, how hard are you really working? What were your knocks? Are you training at night and watching videos at night? Are you role playing with your managers? Like, what is your effort? If you want me to do a solid by you, are you doing a solid for yourself, or does there need to be like some adjustments on that side? So it just allows for more levers to be able to pull and adjust to yield the right result for the rep. Because that's ultimately our goal is if I can make him win, like I'm going to win incrementally on each of those, individual circumstances. So it just allows for full customization.
How did you guys develop that? Did you go out and get freelance developers, and who was the architect to this?
Yeah, no, it was all in my brain, kind of like I again saw what Aptiv had built over the years and what they had done. And when we first started Anthem, we weren't using anything like, I think they called it Guru. We didn't have our Guru, right? We were just using the CRM software. But I realized the value of the Guru, and there's a ton of pain that come with having your own software. I know Andrew with Sela had built his own software and dumped $13 million into it, and it didn't. They ended up abandoning that whole venture because it's why spend time and money perfecting something that someone else is already perfecting. So I wasn't looking to build a full CRM. I have built a full CRM. Have you? A CRM that's there, but it's not something that's ready to even commercialize or do. And I don't plan on spending more time investing that front end. What I am interested in from a software perspective is the marketing services, and having kind of that digital knocking is what I'm trying to call it. Like the ability to, from a census perspective, pull up census blocks, click on that area, have all the houses pre-pinned and all the information, and all those homes have already opted in through how we pull the sources.
So let me ask you about, what do you mean by that? They've already opted in?
Yeah, so in order to market to a home, like you have to have opt-in. Like people have to raise my hand and say, yes, you can use this information to contact me about services.
And how do they do that?
Depends on the source, right? Like we're sourcing through 7 different like data sources to verify name, address, geocodes. We want to make sure the PIN is correct. We want to make sure their email is correct. And so it was costly to like put all that together. But we've now built kind of the skeleton and scoring system. That's the other piece I haven't really talked about yet.
Is that why the icon above the homes is different colors? Does that have to do with the scoring system?
No, the icons have to do with like the disposition of that house. So as you call the different houses, let's say they're not home, I would select not home, and that has a different color.
I see.
So just for like territory management, essentially. And it's the same with the door-to-door companies or the softwares that are out there. But what I talk about with scoring is we looked at all of our data from Anthem from day one to now, and tried to identify what are the markers that attribute to a good customer that pays its bills on time, that stays active, that has low callback rates. And then we identified what are the attributes of the salesman, right? So we ranked houses from 1 to 5, and we ranked sales skill from 1 to 5. And then we looked at it from a territory management perspective and said, okay, what based on all those criteria, how would we highlight each of these serviceable areas? Essentially, what are the areas we should go into and what are the areas we should not go into? And then when we understood that, then we could say, okay, well, what if we sent a level 1 rep into a level C area? What kind of yield would we get from that situation? So there's a lot of data analysis and really trying to understand, like, and you can apply that same logic to any serviceable area based off that criteria. Because we had, multiple Dallas, Texas, Houston, Greenville, Atlanta. We had 4 different markets to run that analysis through. And so we got it pretty dialed in with, 40,000 records to understand kind of those levers that can be pulled. So that part of the software I'm excited about utilizing into the future and helping to market for other companies and be able to use that same logic of, from a pest control perspective, what makes a good client. I can score that out for any market in the US and do that cold call, meaning they're not expecting us to call, but just like they're not expecting someone to knock on their door, it's just a phone sale versus a door-to-door sale.
You're literally going to attempt to cold call, a phone call, right? If I show up as the ideal customer for a pest control company and I've opted in some way, shape, or form, I'm going to get a phone call.
Correct.
And it's basically almost what you do on the
I know
doors.
your name. I have your number. I have your email. So I'm not just going to cold call you. I'm going to send you an email or like 7 emails over 10 days. I might send a text with a video to why you should use this service or why everyone in. I have data points like neighborhood name, right? So
why everyone in Ridgewood Crest is...
Exactly. I might do a YouTube video that's just all through AI. It takes the Ridgewood Crest and puts that over the video. Why everyone in X is using this company service. And so we're building all that out right now to be able to basically create smart marketing tools to start to warm up the clients. And then after they're warm, then we trigger the phone calls. We're not just calling like one by one. Like we'll have software that calls 8 numbers at a time. And when one of them picks up, it connects to our phone center and then we're closing those deals down.
If I'm a great customer, are my neighbors also great customers? Or do they cluster like that or not so much?
The stickier you get in a neighborhood, if you do a good service, like it all comes down to the service for that question, in my opinion. Like, yes, like route density is important. So if you're house to house to house, we have some neighborhoods where we have the entire neighborhood with Anthem. Like the entire neighborhood's on us. Termites open my eyes a lot to that too. Like if I can attach a termite serviceability to a pest account, like the lifetime value of that is, and we use Centricon, but Centricon has data on that in terms of
wicked high retention rates.
Crazy. Like it's crazy, crazy, crazy. So our focus is how do we attach more people to the termite program and start to upsell? And ironically, that's what leads to most acquisitions of pest only accounts is the big guys want to come in, scoop up those pest accounts, backfill ancillary services and provide more revenue through, stacking those sales.
So if you have all this customer data and you're really understanding who's a great pest control customer, you probably can easily determine who's a great roofing customer and who's a great plumbing customer and every other home service you can think about.
Well, more than that, like let's say a storm comes through for roofing, for example, storm comes through and hits a specific area, draw a polygon over the data. And now I have a list of people who probably had hailstorm yesterday. And I can send out text, email, phone calls before anybody else can get out there and start knocking doors. Hey, did your roof get hit? Like we're calling saying, hey, we know your roofs were hit yesterday. Do you want a free inspection? Our guys are in the area. And so, it's going to give us a different approach to get in front of all that.
So you can do all of that in 15 minutes as opposed to send a team out and it takes them 3 days on the doors.
Yep. Ahead of all the other companies, they're going to try to do that. We can get there first. Now, again, if you're there and you're on the doors and you got a sales guy, nothing's going to trump, hey, I can get on your roof right now.
I'm here physically, yes.
Because you still got to send a truck and do those things. There's still disadvantages, but there are a lot of advantages to doing it that way and just being first. Like, in marketing, like recognition wins a lot of the time. And so if you have a good brand that has a good reputation, that's doing the right things and getting in front of the right customers, your chance of success is higher than a guy just saying, hey, I can get up on your door and your insurance will pay for everything and you don't have to cover it. So
will all of this just be this sort of stuff you're doing? is this only going to be for Anthem, or are you going to actually put that as part of Fuel?
Yeah, no, we've already implemented most of that into the CRM for Anthem. We built a separate CRM, and we've taken what we've built there, because I use, I've taken what I built on that side and put that all into the Anthem app as well. Because obviously I own Anthem. I want to do right by Anthem, of course. But yeah, we want to for sure be able to expand that out. And I'm only in Atlanta, right? I may go into the Northeast next year and expand our pest operation. But all the other areas, all 40 major markets in the US, I want to be running ads for all 27 verticals. Why not?
And you want somebody to have the ability to not only do online ads, but also the calls? Is that going to be available?
Yeah, for the pest side, for sure, we have guys that have done that. And for roofing, I have, multiple guys that are closing multiple millions of dollars on the roofing side that can handle the calls, or that have done that in the past. Currently, we're offering the marketing services to get your phone ringing for your team to handle the calls. But for pest, I have a team that can do the calls completely and close down deals. And we just charge a specific rate for that. If we're doing the calls, it's typically 20% of the contract value if we're closing the deal. And if your team's closing it, you pay them whatever you want.
Ben, you've run a fascinating business. I mean, you've clearly learned a ton over the years. You've actually worked with some great mentors, Jason Walton, David Royce. I'm sure the list goes on. What's the plan for you going forward?
Yeah, I love what I'm doing. I've always loved pest control. A lot of my family is involved, obviously, in my operation, and Anthem wouldn't be what it is without the team that we have behind it. Every time I'm talking about the things that I have going on, everyone's like, man, how do you do all this stuff? And it's, for me, I've always been kind of a serial entrepreneur. I've always been focused on doing things to a high level, but I've also realized that my time is best spent on the things that my time is best spent doing. And so if someone can do it, there's a book, and I don't remember which book it was, but there's the rule of 70. If somebody can do it 70% as good as you should delegate that task out. And so I've really applied that over the last few years as I've started to launch other revenue streams and kind of be pulled in different directions, is building a good team of people that can handle the operations of the business. And so for Anthem, like, our goal is to build to a $50 million valuation and potentially sell that business one day and turn over. Like, that's why most entrepreneurs launch something. Yeah. It's no secret from any of our door-to-door guys. We tell them, like, we're looking to build this and grow it and sell it. Yep. My supplement business has an entire team and structure. We're international. We have staff about 10 people down in Chile. We have probably 30 people here in the US that handle the fulfillment and branding and all of those verticals that come with starting and scaling your own supplement brand. I'm into construction, and I have some real estate stuff we're doing. Yep. The marketing is I think where I'm being pulled to the most, and not just marketing in terms of fuel, but marketing in terms of Anthem's growth and profitable growth moving forward, is focusing on things that move the needle towards profitability. And the reason we went through the sale with Potomac and just this last off season was we were really just trying to take some chips off the table. That we had grown to a place where we were bigger than we needed to be for our sales force. And though we could have just continued to backfill with traditional ads and growing that business and getting it to a place that's, more profitable and a little more solid, it made sense to take some chips off the table, get some debt paid back to the investor, keep him smiling and happy, and continue to focus on the growth and trajectory of the business, which is to infiltrate new markets, have profitable growth year one. Like, that's the other thing with the traditional marketing, is that you can break into profitability year one or close to year one versus 18, 24 months down the line. And so obviously I'd rather be in a position at 12 months compared to 24 months. Yeah. And so that's been my focus, and will continue to be my focus, is how do we grow the business in smarter ways that are more profitable, that yield the business, the most upside for the long term.
Ben, you're doing some crazy cool shit. I know there's going to be a lot of people that are going to want to reach out to you. What's the best way for folks to track you down? I know they could take a look at Rocktomic if they want to understand what you're doing on the supplement side.
Sure. So moregamecap.com is my personal website. Has a lot of my stuff listed down at the bottom in terms of what I'm doing, kind of my story. And at the bottom, you can connect with me there as well. on PestFuel.com. You can, if you're interested in the marketing services, or fuelmarketing.agency is another website
Okay.
you can reach out to. But either way, on the website, you can request time to speak and schedule a 30-minute or an hour slot to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. Happy to engage with anybody and help anybody unload some of what we've been learning and apply it to your business, because, you know, win-win scenarios are always good.
Awesome. I mean, you guys are doing great work over there, and I love all these new ventures you're into. So I wish you guys the absolute best, and it was great having you down here in Puerto Rico and being able to have this chat. Of course, coming down.
Yeah, thanks for hosting. It was great.
Absolutely.